Hello, I'm with Greg Rutherford, Olympic gold medalist from London 2012, whose journey began at quite a young age at school, and I want to explore with Greg a little bit more about his journey and particularly through those school years. So first of all, Greg, what got you started in sport generally?
Just this desire to be competitive and be involved in sports. Now, from a young age, very young age, I always loved running, jumping, kicking a ball, throwing a ball, doing absolutely anything. So when I had the opportunity to go to school, I had a place where I could harness all of this interest and try all different sports. So
you were quite a good footballer, I heard, actually, particularly. Did you make the school team?
Yeah, I made the school team and a couple of other teams after that. Up until I was about the age of 14, I'd taken football pretty much to the lengths I could, and I was trialling at Aston Villa at that age. And after that, it's sort of where I discovered I didn't enjoy it enough, because this is the big thing with sport, I think, that a lot of people miss, especially at a young age. You need to enjoy it, and you have to have that spark and that desire. Now, I enjoyed multiple sports, but by 14 I didn't enjoy football as much. So I chose it. I didn't really want to do it anymore, so I moved on. And then a few years later I found athletics, but around that I'd just been involved in absolutely every sport.
You must have had a culture at school that really encouraged people to have a go at everything and really get the enjoyment out of it.
Yeah, I was very, very lucky. The schools, all of the schools I went to, I think possibly my parents had some level of involvement of making sure I went to the schools which could help harness some of that sporting desire that I had. But everyone I went to was brilliant within sport, and they all had competitive teams. And ultimately with sport, you do it because you want to be competitive and you want to do well at it, and you want to ultimately win. And I went to schools where that was able to happen. And again, you don't always win. I mean, that's the fact of life. You can't win everything, but if you're put into a good environment to try to succeed, you can excel. And I was very, very fortunate that through all of my schools, I did a lot of sport and we did well.
There's a lot of opportunities in schools on Guernsey here, and there's a lot of school children who are itching to get involved in sport, but there's a bit of a barrier, a bit of a commitment needed, and they're not sure whether to get involved, or not sure whether to take the next leap literally into competitive sport, to put the neck on the line a bit. Was there a particular teacher or coach or someone that actually helped you with that at school?
Yeah, I think, well, everybody, as I say, every school I went to had a level of involvement, and that would be teachers making sure you're there on time, ready to go to a competition or to play football or play rugby or whatever else. I think the main driving force behind me doing well at anything was my parents. I was very, very lucky to have a fantastic set of parents who would liaise with the schools to make sure that I was there on time and I was getting out of bed early on the Sunday mornings to play football, etc. And those guys were integral and so important for me to do well. And again, that sort of relationship between your teachers and your family and everything. And I know I'm in a very fortunate position to have two fantastic parents, but I think for the people who don't have the same luxuries that I did in that way, then that's where teachers and support staff become hugely
important, aren't they?
They become that mother and father.
So you must have had a few barriers, a few little, any barriers you can think of. And what's your method of overcoming adversity, barriers, problems that knock you back?
Yeah, I think a sort of pig-headed determination is something that I've always had from a young age. But there's been so many different barriers that I've had to cross at certain times. For example, I think around 16, 17, I pretty much had to change my friendship group entirely because it was taking me down the wrong path of what I needed to do to stay in sport and be heavily involved. So I had to take the conscious effort of identifying issues around certain people that I was involved with in order to move away. And that's something that I think is incredibly hard for a lot of kids. These are people that you've known a long time, but ultimately if they're putting you in a bad position, you have to be able to walk away. And that was something that I did. And then when I did then become a professional athlete, what you find is something like injury is hugely involved in your life. You have to be prepared to accept injury and learn how to work with it. And again, this sort of dogged determination that I've always had to do well also comes out of me whenever I get an injury. I'm so determined to get over that injury in order to get back and perform well that I tell myself it's not as bad, and I do everything I need to do possible in order to get myself out.
That's real focus, real drive, real determination.
I think often you see in a lot of athletes more drive and determination when they're hurt because they want to get back to feeling good again, and they'll do absolutely everything they possibly can in order to get there, and that's exactly what I do.
Fantastic. Well, my final question really is around what advice would you give to youngsters in school, youngsters who want to take part in sport, and youngsters who are enjoying sport and want to succeed in sport?
I think that determination has to be one of the biggest things, and enjoyment, because ultimately if you're not enjoying something, you're not going to give yourself every opportunity and put 100% into it. So enjoyment factor is hugely important, but taking the knocks, as we said, these are things that everybody has. There is nobody in sport in the world who has done well who hasn't had knocks and hasn't been put down at some point where things haven't gone right. So having that determination, enjoying everything you do, is fundamental in taking it to whatever level your body can possibly take to.
Fantastic. Greg, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank
Thanks
you very
very much indeed. Appreciate it.